What's going on, guys? How are we all doing? Everyone all good? Hope everyone's having a nice evening and had some fruitful trading of late. How are we? So, been a minute since we've touched in. Let's get right into it, shall we? What's up, Mary? How are you? Good evening. What's going on here? Okay, so we'll run through these alts in a bit. First off, let's kick things off with the corn. We'll take a look at BTC. We can freestyle tonight. Whatever you guys want to do. If you guys have any requests, questions, etc., we can take a look at whatever you want. But starting off, let's look at BTC. We still haven't covered everything since this takeout. So in the last session last week, we were, I believe, hovering around this area here. Okay, and I was saying, and forgive me if this wasn't in the last stream, I think it was. If not, it was just in my group. But I was saying that basically these lows are ripe for the taking here. Why? Because they're stacked lows. Okay. So essentially when you have multiple lows or multiple highs that are primed for sweeps, SFPs, stop hunts, etc., etc., it's more likely that price will magnetize to those levels. Okay. Reason being is because essentially what they do is build up sort of cumulative stops, right? It's not so much on the breakout side until you get to the last level, but until that point, yeah, it's basically just stops building up at these lows. Okay, so people that are long in this area here may have their stops here, or here, right? So there's multiple levels that can be taken. And essentially what you'll see is price wipe out these levels at the last level here. You may see some breakdown traders rather hop to the positions. Basically all of these market participants are in market order form, which gets absorbed by limit bids, the stronger hand in the market, produces a good bit of delta, and basically price is supported, the selling impetus absorbed, and we reverse. Okay, let's get the delta up. Just a quick sound check. I haven't seen if you guys can hear me okay. Do let me know, please, if the sound and the picture is okay. Did a private stream yesterday and was in and out of picture and sound, so I was talking to the abyss for too long. Hope I'm not doing that tonight. Yeah, all good? All right, so delta-wise, you can see exactly that, okay? I've spoken before about the significance of DCs, otherwise known as delta clusters. You can see that exactly happening here, okay? So basically, isolated spikes are all well and good, and they very much can be used as confluence for trades. That being said, when we get clusters, so much more powerful. All right, when you get these clusters here, essentially what this means is price is coming down, and there are limits in the form of bids in this case that are absorbing the market selling, and they're basically just walking down price. Okay, so someone's just continuing to absorb market selling. When I say someone, I'm not talking about an individual. It could be an individual, could be an entity, an organization, etc., etc., or could just be a general representation of the market. But those limits are being walked down, continuing to absorb market selling impetus as price breaches lower. Okay, and you can see that sort of culminates in these two larger bars of negative delta here as we take out that final level, right? So as we take out this level here, 100,700 give or take, and at this point the market sellers have no ammunition left. The last sort of tranche here of market participants being breakdown traders, smashing market short, thinking that they're catching a good breakdown, you know, breakout to the upside, to the downside essentially. Still getting absorbed by limit bids, and then price just reverses. Now, you can see the effect to which this cluster, and so basically we have two things going on here. Okay, we have a extremely well-structured delta cluster. We also have these stacked lows. So we're not just taking out one low in isolation, we're taking out three lows, a collection of stop losses, and we have the delta cluster sort of it's essentially representing all of those stops being hit at those three levels, into limit bids, which are absorbing that market selling impetus. So we have two pieces of fairly rare confluence coming together, also in a very much higher time frame pro trend situation here. Okay, so this is just classic bull market price action basically, right? We rage up, create this range in here, take out the base of the range, as you can see there, and then start marching onwards to the upside again. Okay, so a lot of people would have been waiting for this basically price to do this here and curl back down, right? Fail at this sort of point of market structure defense, curl back down, perhaps put in a divergence, perhaps not, and then fail and break lower. But as you can see, we essentially dallied here, right? This is a straight V reversal. It's been very aggressive since the 100K 0.7 last level got taken out. We basically did not do that, and we are back up at the 4-hour supply zone that previously capped price, challenging basically all-time highs here and near to price discovery once again. So I hope some of you caught this move. I myself, hands in the air, did not catch the move on BTC. I was going camping the next day, was packing, was with friends and family. Mind was not on the markets, but I hope some of you did capitalize on this move. I know many members of my group did, and yeah, it's a super clean move here, right? Super clean trade. I imagine many of you got on the wrong side of this based on emotions, but I hope you've learned from it, if that is the case, or if not, I hope you capitalized and are steady in a good long position here. Okay, so yeah, basically that's the 4-hour sort of picture. We can sort of go top down if you like. We can make a few notes, a bit of commentary on the monthly, etc. So last stream I was talking about my 3-stage exit process across both trades and potentially spot positions. That spot position offloading hasn't occurred yet. That was stage 3. Stage 1 occurred during the weekly SFP, which is here. Closed a good bunch of leverage trades there. Stage 2, so the closing of the leverage trades here was basically me locking in that 45R within the 2-week period. Some of my best trading to date. Stage 2 was the monthly SFP here. I closed my weekly position trades on TRX and XRP. Didn't seem to be the best move, but that's fine. We stay systematic, right? I knew it could put me at risk of being offside on those markets, and at the end of the day, had just locked in some huge gains, so wanted to be systematic, operational, mechanical, and protect myself and my portfolio in these conditions as well. Okay, very cognizant of the fact that, as I said, when I close those positions off the back of this monthly SFP, that monthly SFPs can simply just do, well, any SFPs can just do this, okay? Simply rage onwards and look like nothing in hindsight, okay? But at the time of action, there is an SFP that printed on the higher time frames, being the monthly. So I had to action those higher time frame trades accordingly. Stage 3 was a potential red candle this month, to which I would probably end up closing my spot positions, which is pretty much just hyperliquid at this point, 90% hype. But that's obviously yet to be seen. We have 19 days until the monthly close. If we do get a red, then essentially what we're doing is looking in a divergence here, double div across the RSI on the awesome oscillator. As price makes higher highs, the oscillators make lower highs, and then we lock in the divergence confirmation candle with the first red candle after this high has been made, okay? Now, if divergences seem or feel alien to you, please refer to my landing page on my YouTube. I've got a masterclass on divergences you can touch up on there. Going down to the slightly lower time frames, 3-day, let's take a look. It looks healthy here. It looks healthy, in good stead. We know the hourly 4-hour picture. We know the lower time frame picture taking out those stacked lows. Here just looks healthy, right? There's nothing really too alarming. We've basically come down from 73s on the 3-day RSI down to what I would count a technical reset. For me, anything between 55 and 45 is a reset in my books. This came down to 54.8. So we have a reset on the 3-day. The daily, as you can see here, is hovering around 59 marks. So again, in very healthy stance on the daily. Only thing I'd say is we're back into supply being here, impulse, cluster, impulse. That being said, you can see that it's this sort of grayed out zone here because it is weakened supply. What that means is it's not the first tap into supply. There have been some taps in this area here. As a result, it isn't as strong, okay? Especially when considering that it is counter trend liquidity. You know, sometimes when we're seeing pro-trend liquidity, such as intra-demand, let's just say there was a demand zone here. Oftentimes you can get multiple taps to that zone, and the fact that it's weakened doesn't really matter as much, because essentially what it's doing is just supporting price within a trend. But when you have counter trend liquidity such as this supply here, it's much more likely to be breached upon next attempts, because it's essentially going against the trend. So if we look at something like hype, yeah, you can see here exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Impulse, cluster, impulse, so creation of the intra-demand zone. And instead of price breaking down, right, as we had both multiple taps and closes into this intra-demand zone here, it just acted as support, right? So all of these taps here, even though the demand was technically completely exhausted, it still managed to act as a buffer and hold up price. And you can see the culmination and then result of that here, okay? Right, let's move on to ETH. We can do top down again. So monthly, line in the sand, nothing changed here. Okay, so this level here around sort of 2000, between 2 and 2.2s on ETH is my line in the sand. If we go down to the weekly, we can see that even clearer and cleaner. Multiple touch points here. Have covered this over the last few months, okay, and we're still firmly above that level. On the weekly, starting to look quite interesting. Before I said we were hanging on for dear life at the sort of reset 50 level. now, as you can see, we're actually starting to do what looks more like a reclaim of that 50 level here. Okay, so interesting positioning on the RSI and looking pretty healthy. Bulls ideally want to hold on to this 50 level on the weekly. That would be a very strong sign for continuation. 3-day looking good. Again, reset down to 54s, despite not being completely overextended. Still very healthy in this area. Daily looks decent, but now we're getting into this sort of lower time frame range, so we may as well dive down to the 4-hour here, and you can see we basically are putting in a bearish divergence. It's a single bearish divergence, meaning that it's not also present on the awesome oscillator. That being said, it is a tight div, and we never see double divergences when the divs are so tight because of the nature of the AO. It's much slower to print. If we go down to the 2, I'm sure we can. Yeah, okay. So 2 is much cleaner here, right? You can see that we do have that double divergence structure in here on this last leg between here and here. Essentially, this is classic curling over sort of price action here. If we go down to the 1 hour, you can see it very, very clean and clear. We've got this sort of what's now really a quadruple drive on price, where we have number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Okay, so 4 drives on price, and essentially what's happening is the RSI is just making lower high after lower high after lower high after lower high, as price makes higher high after higher high after higher high after higher high. Okay, so continual momentum teetering off here on the lower time frames, and you can see that very clean and simple across the awesome oscillator here. We've got that triple hump, 1, 2, 3, and now 4 here. That being said, we also had the RSI reset here, bang down to the 53s, which could have meant continuation. But I imagine if we lock in some hourly closes underneath this level here, around 2,700, 2,800 on ETH, 2,800, 2,788. If we start closing underneath, then I imagine we'll have some sort of correction on our hands, or could just spike up and say fuck you to everything. That's logical. That's the other alternative, of course. So we'll have to see what plays out on ETH. Maybe a nice short position if we do get that. Let's take a look at the delta, see what's going on there. So again, this is the wipeout. Tons of delta. Okay, so not so much of a cluster, but very significant on the aggregated negative delta side and the liquidation side as well. But now you can see this sort of quadruple drive up here, 4 drive on price, is accruing a good bit of positive delta. That being said, it is very much counter trend delta, so we have to take that into account as well. And what we could see is price just test the support here, come down, sort of test here, and then just start moving upwards. Okay, so essentially whatever happens will be very telling as to ETH's strength in this area, because this is as sort of toppy as price action gets, really, with this clear momentum signaling that the buyers are getting weak in this area. But what can often happen is in raging markets, essentially all we need to do is time capitulate the divergence. Okay, so if we do this right for enough time, even that would be more than enough. All of this gets reset, all of this gets invalidated. We start hovering around the mid. We start basically making this RSI bar statistics go very neutral in the 50s, just above the 50 level. Price is basically ranging in this area here, using the mid of the RSI as support, cooling off any momentum to the downside. any divergence potentials, and then basically just going again for another leg higher and another proper go at making some upside on ETH. So that's where we're at so far across BTC and ETH. Let's run through some positions. I've taken a few positions since we last touch base. What's up, Kelechi? How are you, man? Okay, so FARTCOIN. So although I wasn't present for the BTC wipeout, I was earlier on that day. I was at the desk, and you can see here we have a nice. Well, firstly, if we go to the higher time frames, let's look at the point of interest, right? The point of operation here. There was one very clean and obvious independent low, right, in this area, that if price is going to wipe it out, SFP, and then move higher, it's very much this one here, okay? So eyes were automatically on this level here. As you can see on the 12-hour, we had a flat-bottomed RSI divergence. Didn't get that double div occurring across the awesome oscillator. But if we drift down slightly, you can see we did very much have that across the 10-hour. Now, as I always say with divergences, you have to take context and trend into account, okay, and sometimes bend the rules a bit. For me, the bending of the rule here was coming too close to the 50 level. As you can see, we're up pointing at the, scratching the 47s here. And that normally is very much a reset in my books. But context in hand, strength of the market in hand, happy to sort of bend the rules there a little bit. Now, if we go down to the lower time frames, even still, you can see how severe that diverging momentum is on the 6-hour. And then if we start going down to the other side of the time frame spectrum, so we're going much lower, you can see that there was a very clean 30-minute divergence as well. So this is what I call fractal divergences. When you have multiple divergences, different divergences occurring across different time frames, basically makes for a very heavily confluenced trade, and gives you much more confidence in the play out, basically. Okay, so in that manner, I was able to execute here before the reclaim. Okay, so before we start reclaiming price, we're not taking entry up here. We're doing it here because we're cognizant of the 12-hour picture, the 10-hour picture, the 6-hour picture, the 30-minute picture, and also the hourly picture. So if you look at the hourly here, there's also still a divergence here, okay? Even though it's flat bottomed and the AO is not really giving us that confirmation, we have so many signals of that diverging momentum across different time frames that we can start moving in with a bit more confidence, okay? And for me, the primary trigger was the 30-minute in order to get things as tight as possible. So I'm using the 6, 10, and 12-hour pictures for sort of higher time frame rationale and reasoning. Then going down to the 30-minute to snipe the best entry and tightest entry possible. Still, I'm not doing anything like this. Right, I'm not getting crazy with it because the div can keep diving, right? I want to survive this position, or I wanted to survive this position. So it's a stop like this. But anyway, the whole market seemed to go down from here. FARTCOIN held up extremely well whilst BTC and nuked. And then we had that sort of V reversal Dalai on BTC, which lifted everything up, and very, very little drawdown on this trade. I wasn't really watching it. I was out in the wilderness, hiking and camping, enjoying myself. But a very nice position here on FARTCOIN. So essentially looking to run it to at least these highs up here. I should set another up here, to be honest. See what happens when price interacts with this level. See if I want to take it a bit higher, looking at sort of an 11R at this level here. But if we start diverging into this level, if we start getting stuff like this occurring, like so, closing back underneath, then I'll think about manually chasing out of the position. So that's FARTCOIN. KAITO was a position from yesterday or the day before, 9th. So 2 days ago. Essentially what I was looking at here was the higher time frames. I was looking at the 12-hour in particular. First off, you can see quite similar to BTC in that we've got these stacked lows. Okay, so we've got double lows here, not triple lows, but still two lows that are very close to one another that haven't been taken out yet. Okay, we also have this zone of 12-hour intra-demand here, propping up price, or potentially propping up price anyway. Two taps using this as support, and basically when we had this 12-hour close here, moved into the position. You can also see that, like, although if we do this, although price is only just making those lower lows here, you can see basically what's happening on the AO here. We're just curling, okay? We're just curling back up and really giving some signals that price is done to the downside, okay? That combined with the green pin bar here on the 12-hour sweep of all of this here, using intra-demand as well, so we're using liquidity dynamics in the trade thesis as well, makes for a decent swing. Okay, so in KAITO, again, it's of course one of the markets from my weekly strength watch list. So we'll let this run and see how it goes. Europe is a new addition to the watch list, another long I'm in. Very, very simple trade here, guys. Okay, so if you're looking at the 12-hour, you can see there's very little chart data available, okay, but it's still crept into the top 300 by market cap, which is why it's cropped up on my watch list by my code scanner. And you can see a super clean breakout level here. Now, what's particularly attractive about this breakout level is this. So not just looking at the level itself and the interactions of price, which is very nice and evenly spaced out, but then also looking at how the sort of market structure dynamics as price moves up into this level. Okay, now this with ascending lows is much more appealing than if we were doing stuff like this. Okay, if we had descending lows into this, it would look completely different and be a much less attractive setup. This is pretty much textbook, right? It's perfect in terms of continuation. Very, very easy trade to take, very, very little thinking necessary. And you can see that we were even given a warranted entry on the hourly. You can see that we have all these touch points here on the bodies. The wick here, we've got consolidation prior to the breakout here. And then as we broke up, it's a simple hourly close, take entry, stop underneath consolidation prior to the breakout. It's the same playbook, guys, over and over again. Very, very simple stuff. Okay, so although I go through my gatekeeping process and answer 30 different questions in order to be able to take the trade, there's really no need when it comes to trades like this, because it's as simple as hourly close past the level, market in, chase in, whatever you want to do, and then stop the other side of consolidation, run it up, right? Take a nice breakout trade out of it, as simple as that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. This is ES. I'm test trading some traditional markets at the moment, but on the crypto side, these are the three markets that I'm in at the moment. And yeah, we can just scan through the current watch list as well, see where everything's at. How did I pick my target? What's going on, Hassan? How do you mean, T? On what market? Is that KAITO? KAITO, it's just nothing. This is just a made-up target. I just pulled the box up, essentially. Oh, were you talking about KAITO or, sorry, what was the other one? Syrup? Is that what you were talking about? If it's KAITO, then again, this is just a very arbitrary long position that I pulled up. So same as FART, I should be setting alerts at the highs, like so. Oh, you want syrup? It's the same deal, right? I'm just basically just shooting for 4.5, a 5R trade, whatever it is, and it's completely arbitrary, right? We're in price action, price discovery at the moment, so essentially what I'm looking for is to just play this until I'm forced to exit. Okay, so I'll start taking partials if we get into this zone here, but really what I'm looking for are divergences on, I'd say, the 4 higher, the 4, the 12, etc. Get some solid divs to take me out of the position, force me out of the position, look for entries again lower. Seems like a very strong and primed market to be in, so I want us to sort of stay in this as long as possible. Or if we get, for instance, the monthly lock-in on BTC, then I'll go flat across the board. So there could be some sort of more macro domino events that occur that could trigger me out of the position as well. Aave been super strong of late, super strong, right? So keeping eyes on any sort of entry here. Hoping that this sort of 2-hour diverging structure brings us lower and we can sort of snipe some entries. That being said, we're a long way away from the 237s here now, which is where my first alarm would go off. I need to set an alarm there as well. But yeah, would love an entry on Aave. Just need a warranted sort of area to get long on it, basically. BNB super clean. Again, just very clean price action here. This was the BTC wipeout, and you can see that I made a note of this in my group, right? So when we're looking at SFPs and sweeps, I say this over and over again, we're looking for divergences, speed, or both, okay? And here we have just one, right? So we just have speed here. But in this case, it was more than enough. Okay, so when you have a market that's this strong, when you have a low that's this independent, using sort of single confluence such as speed is more than enough, right? So take a note of that, guys, if you haven't already. Spoke about Deep yesterday, I believe, when I did the private stream for my group, but I was thinking about entering, I think it was here, yeah, this candle here, and the rationale for entry would have been a deviation, right? So all of this being a deviation here just didn't sit right with me for some reason to do so, despite being aligned with the higher time frame trend. I think a change I'm making in my sort of trading system these days is that I'm only really going to take deviations if it's on BTC and ETH, if it's pro trend, and if we have very strong delta confluence as well. The fact that I can't see the delta of this, right? If there was tons of delta in this area here to support this deviation position, then I may take it. I also may have taken it if it was more of a clean range, right? I prefer, basically no gappiness up here. There's a ton of gappiness in this area, which for me makes it not a very strong range, right? I don't really consider this a range. This is more a deviation of a level, right? And deviations for me have much higher playouts when you're doing a deviation of a range as opposed to just a deviation of an SR level. So no position there on Deep. Dog, I was basically hawking this this pennant earlier and was thinking about taking a breakout to the upside if we broke out to the upside. Purely pretty much based off the RSI statistics. So you can see here, if we go back to where I was looking at price, we've got some seriously tidy statistics here. Okay, so I believe it was actually, let's have a look if I can find the exact point at which I was thinking about this position. Yeah, basically 50s on the lower time frames, the very, very low time frames, M1 to M15. And then everything from M30 to the daily was between 51 and 57, which is exactly where you want the RSI to be. So if you go here, just keep looking, keep your eyes up here on the RSI as I sort of flick through these time frames. You can see how every time frame is just hugging that mid level as support. Which made it an interesting potential play. So I was ready to sort of break my rules as to not entering on a sweep or tap into supply and demand. If we broke out to the upside, would never take this in a sort of anticipatory sense. But there was no breakout. Okay, just got the breakdown, so no trade there either. FARTCOIN we know. The delta bars are on Agar T. Again, templates exclusive to members of my Discord. So hype has been raging, right? Still very much in the spot position in hype, despite this sort of curling AO structure here. Again, not looking to muck around with this position. It's very much hands off unless we get that BTC monthly divergence. As to which I'm either closing or heavily trimming. KAITO we've touched. Pendle sort of diddling in the middle here, so nothing actionable on Pendle. Looking for either the alert to trigger up here, something like this. We've already got a good few touch points at this level here on the hourly. So some consolidation prior to a break would be prime. Okay, make another long entry similar to syrup or whatever, right? Because we've already got multiple touch points here. Sol, again, very much mid-range here. Got an alert up here, got an alert down here, but not looking to do anything in the middle of this sort of area here. Sol was an interesting one because we still have loads of untapped lows, unswept lows here. Okay, so now we have 3, right? So we've got 1, 2, and 3 on Binance anyway. This may have been taken on Bybit, I'm not sure. But yeah, better hope that BTC and ETH keep us held up. Otherwise, these are very attractive for the taking on Sol. Sui, very similar to Sol, just mucking around in the middle of the range here. It's exactly the same thing. Alerts at the highs, alerts at the lows. There's nothing in the way of supply and demand in this area here, which we can operate in. So it's purely sweeps. TRX, again, alert down here, 0.26. Apart from that, we're sort of in local price discovery. Virtual was very similar to FARTCOIN in that there was one clear isolated low that could have been swept for trend continuation. Again, didn't action this as this was the point at which the market wiped out with BTC. But super clean move to wipe this out, simple SFP candle, and we started marching on upwards. XMR is starting to look a little bit interesting, I suppose. We could mark this here. This is a clean, isolated low. Change this back to white. So This is a potentially interesting low to set an alert at, the 301s on XMR. I could see something like this occur, right? So either something like this where we get speed, or come down, diverge, probably not the 4 hour, but the lower time frames, right? And get some sort of trigger there. XRP took out this low at 2.07, left these equal lows down here. Again, sort of makes it right for the taking, as with Sol. All of these markets better hope that BTC does start moving into price discovery and ETH does continue moving upwards. Otherwise, these are getting wiped first thing. USDT was a new addition as of yesterday to the weekly strength watch list. So again, it's a very simple alert at the low. Looking to see the reaction, looking for potential lower time frame divergences if we take out that low. SPX, crazy market, man, crazy market. One of my members of my group put me onto this yesterday, and Jesus Christ, what a rager. I mean, we took out this low here, essentially took out the all-time low, deviated it, and since then, straight sender. And now we're challenging all-time highs, nearly moving into price discovery, but a very, very awkward market to look to position into. Very, very difficult, because essentially what we have is just all of these untapped lows, right, and nothing that we can sort of move into here. You can see I've got alerts here, 0.9168, but unless we get a wipeout of this, I don't really see how we can position into the market at the moment. So our best bet really is either we take out this low, or we start forming a range, we take out the low of the range, come back into the range, and that sort of gives us our trigger here, something like so. Was also looking at this market earlier, a new addition as of yesterday, and I was aware of this AO structure here, right? I was aware of this on price, but my system kept me out of the position because there wasn't a double divergence, meaning we didn't really have anything on the RSI, and price just came up for a hard reset here. If this had looked like this, would have been a different situation. Okay, would have definitely taken this, but needed a bit more on the confidence side of things. So system kept me out, which is fine, right? Fine. I'm becoming much better at skipping positions as per my system, because the system's serving me extremely well this year, and I've basically just come into terms with the fact that I can't catch them all, right? I can't hit every trade. I won't be hitting every trade. I'm not going to try and tweak my system every time laboriously, stress out over missed positions. It's fine. I'm happy to miss trades, happy to skip being in certain positions. You know, I'm running 3 longs at the moment. I'm back to it after a bit of a break, but before that, a 45-hour period across 2 weeks. So nothing to be pissed off about, everything to be grateful for, and just keeping things going. Anyway, guys, I'm going to clock off. Hope you guys enjoyed this evening. Do let me know if you have any questions before I do so. Yeah, see ETH already coming back up here. I wouldn't be surprised to see this RSI cool off. That being said, eyes on closes back under 2788, because that's as close as we're going to get to some sort of confirmation to the downside. Anyway, boys and girls, hope you have a nice evening. To members of my group, I'll catch you in the lounge, and to the rest of you all, I'll see you next week. We'll be hitting Saturdays 11 AM going forward again. Yeah, have a nice week, happy trading, and catch you all soon.